So now I have a photo here that I took of my model airplane using the photo tent, and I'm going to adjust it to make it more color balanced and correct. And I'll probably trace out the background as well using the pen tool. So here we go. This is how it took using my lamps and my pretty decent kitchen lighting at home here. It would do actually possibly better outside under sunlight, but I didn't have that available at the time of recording because it was, how do you say, night. Anyways, so from here, let's go ahead and do it. There's an easy way, which is kind of a cheater way and not always the best thing, but it's an expedient. If you go to image, sorry, not even adjustments, auto color, it will neutralize things, figure out the white point, and do the white balance for you. It's not quite as good as doing it yourself. And I've also included a tutorial video below here that also will show you how to do it using a more finessey technique involving adding a layer of gray and selecting gray points and adjusting everything to it, which is kind of what this is doing on its own. But you know how I feel about computers making decisions for you. So here's the color. It's a bit brighter, and it's still not quite as bright as I'd like, so I could still go in here and do levels adjustment, or just a good old-fashioned brightness and contrast, and raise the brightness up 20 or so points. If you go too far, things start to look silly. So, keep it within reason. This looks pretty decent for this picture. We can zoom in slightly. Whoop, a little too much there. Show you what we got. At this point, I'm going to take my pen tool. I'm going to change the background layer to layer 0 because you can't use transparency with the background. The background is always fixed solid. But if you rename it so it's no longer the background, suddenly it's okay to get rid of it. So I'll go through and do a quick pen trace. Bear with me or skip to the end of the video if you don't want to watch. My mad pen school pen tool skills. I love tracing out with the pen tool because unlike letting the computer choose based off of pixel information, which always ends up awkward because pixels don't follow things like curves. Instead, I'm able to visually judge the edges of my photo and make the correct choices, or at least the choices a human would make in understanding what is picture and what is not. Because unlike the computer, you and I, even if you don't know a ton about planes, you have an idea about what an airplane would look like, and you kind of have an idea of should there be random extra background sticking into it. Things that the computer doesn't quite get yet, and they're still working on AI algorithms to handle that. And it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it kind of things, because this is something that traditionally computers have a lot of problems with. So I'm just going to keep tracing around the outside here, and there'll be more to do later on the inside. As I work my way around and around and around, adding points only where I need them, keeping it as simple as possible, because a simpler path looks better and cleaner. Sometimes you may even lose a little tiny bit of detail, but if you know your subject matter, or at least get a good sense of what it looks like, you can choose to omit some certain tiny details here and there that may or may not be super important to recognizing the object. Oops, messed up on that point. Let's do a little bit closer here. I'm probably not zoomed in as far as I should be for getting a good trace on this, to be honest. But what I love about pen tool tracing is how good it handles these long, graceful curves that are otherwise really hard to achieve using other background deletion methods. Anything that's pixel-based is not going to give you this gorgeous line quality that we're going to have. I know I'm telling you about what's going to be. Some of you have done this sort of thing before, and you've already seen kind of the results. Also, as is normally goes into my speech about pen tool tracing, I like tracing airplanes, not just because I like them, but because, quite frankly, the same mathematics that are used to make the pen tool draw lines is the same math used to design the curvature of an airplane's wing. So planes, from almost any angle, should be easy, may not be the right word, but the types of shapes that they make are exactly the types of shapes that the Bezier pen tool are very best at tracing. Also, it does bear to matter that I do like planes. Anyways, let's go ahead and finish out here. I'm almost all the way around the outside. Thanks for listening if you're still with me. If not, I understand. I won't judge you. I have no way of knowing if you finished the video. I'm gonna go back and adjust that handle a little bit. There we go. This one's going too far, so I'm gonna bring it back in. There we go, and that can be a grab back in. Now that I have the whole thing, let's Command 0 to get the outside traced here. I can right click and say make selection. Feather radius 0. You might want to use the feather radius on a pen tool trace if you're tracing something like wispy hair or fur, in which case a little bit of feathery, transparency edges can help give you that look, because a hard edge haircut starts looking like a strange hard edge haircut. It looks like a helmet head. If any of you guys are familiar with the now kind of old anime Naruto, you look like Rock Lee if you trace hair using the pen tool without feathering. Anyways, on a hard edge object like this, you just say no feather, please. And we say, okay, now the marching ants go around the whole plane here. We're good. Let's go ahead and do one more thing. If I just hit delete right now, I have gotten rid of the wrong thing. You've heard of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Well, this is chucking the baby out the window and keeping the bathwater. So let's undo that. I believe I can remember where the menu items are. It's like Command-Shift-I for select inverse. We'll go to select inverse. There it is. Shift-Command-I. It's under select. And by doing that, you now see also around the outside edge, there's dotted lines. Hit delete now, and you're getting a plane with no background. I have to do 2 or 3 more little things here. Let's go ahead and get them done. I'm sorry if this video is getting kind of long on you. Sorry, not sorry. And you just go through and you make selection for each one of these little bits. Whoops, I hit delete too soon. I got all excited. It wasn't quite time yet. Because that's the fun part, getting rid of that background. Make selection, 0, and delete. Oh, that was a non-zero feather. You guys want to see that? That was a mistake. I accidentally hit delete. Look at that. So when you use the feather option, when you delete it, that fuzzes out your edges. Again, if you're doing hair or fur, that's not a worst idea. I'm going to go ahead and hold on, pen tool, make selection, feather radius 0. I hit 9 instead of 0, and that's what happened because they're right next to each other on my keyboard. Go ahead and get the last little bit of the inside here. Biplanes are a little more work because of all these things. If you really want an easy plane to trace, get yourself the F-117 Stealth Fighter. That thing has no curves because it was rendered on when they made the design for the thing, they rendered out basically their CAD for building the plane using an older computer and software that couldn't handle complex curves. So that's why it's all jaggedy, because they could only do the math if it was diamond shaped. Anyways, that's an easy one. This plane has a lot of curves. Still not as many as curvier planes, which do exist. But get the last little bits of the background deleted out of here. Make selection and 0. I keep hitting delete too soon. Only a few more, guys, and we'll have the full shebang here. Yep, 2 more inside cutouts on this thing. Whoops, that's a little off. Don't get sloppy, Ben, just because you're almost done. Click, 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 click. Make selection. Okay, delete. And little things are important, like getting the correct curvature inside there. So it's not, you could cheat and make it all hard edged or straight edged, but it'll be a better result if you pay attention to the small, slight curvatures. So here's the plane on the background here. I'm going to add a new layer behind all this. And I'm going to go ahead and fill it with, we can do 50% gray. You can see the trace of the plane. And I wouldn't necessarily include it anywhere with this, but I put the gray on there so you could see. Oops, let's zoom in slightly here. You can see the trace quality. You can see I was a little sloppy in a few spots, but overall, that's a pretty well done plane for a homemade light booth. Thanks for listening. I hope I didn't talk you guys to death. Good luck with yours, and I can't wait to see the pictures you're able to take. Have fun, guys.